That's right, folks, you've heard of thrift store game reviews, and now get ready for thrift store anime reviews. Have you ever gotten anime DVDs at a thrift store? Don't! Because that's my job now. So yes, for this video I picked out 3 anime DVDs to watch and review for you, the viewer. The rules of this challenge: I can only review based on what is in the DVD. So if there's only one season in the DVD, I can only review that season. So let's start off with the first one, Psychic Squad. Basically, I picked this up because it gave me that early 2000s anime feel, and it seemed kind of cute. I was in the mood for a comedy. I wanted something a little lighthearted, and that's basically what this is trying to be. So the idea behind Psychic Squad is actually pretty interesting. It's basically an organization of psychics that go out and battle crime, and Hikaru, the brass psychokinetic who can move objects with her mind, Shiho, the sarcastic and dark-natured psychometric able to pick thoughts from people's minds and read the paths of inanimate objects like a book, and Aoi, the most collected and rational of the 3, who has the ability to teleport herself and others at will. Extremely powerful psychics, and they have a handler to prevent them from using their powers irresponsibly, of course, since they are children. And yeah, the 4 of them go out, they stop crime, they go on these missions. That sounds like it would be up my alley, especially with the idea of like 3 superpowered elementary school kids, you know? It's kind of giving me Powerpuff Girls vibes. I was going into this anime expecting something of similar style to Mob Psycho, but before Mob Psycho, like with a early 2000s feel to it. I started off the first episode and it was straight up garbage. It was absolute trash. So first of all, there are 3 girls that have these different psychic abilities, but the only one that the show seems to care about is the main girl, Karu. The other 2 girls kind of feel like background characters. They do try to flesh them out a little bit more as we reach closer to the end of the first season, but you know, it's kind of too little too late at that point. The big thing about Karu, which they felt like was very funny, is so funny that they needed it to be a running gag for the entire series. She enjoys looking at dirty magazines with big-breasted women. She is basically called like an old man brain within an elementary school girl. Not literally, she just acts that way for some reason. Who is giving her the nudie mags? I don't know. It's not very funny, and she's not even gay. For those of you who are thinking, oh yeah, representation, no, not even that, because she's not necessarily sexually attracted to the girls that she's looking at. They try to reason with it, once again, a little bit too late into the first season, where they reveal that her mom is like a model, the sister's a model, and so she like idolizes the female form or something. And this kind of brings home the main point about Psychic Squad that makes it so bad, in my opinion. It's a comedy, but it's just not funny. And the types of jokes that the writers lean in on the most, the type of jokes that they think are the most hilarious to throw in there, it typically tend to be pedophile jokes. It is, in fact, a main theme running in this series that the handler may end up with one of the 3 girls. There is even another psychic teenager girl who is being groomed by her handler. Haha, you silly guy. You can't marry her. She's just a teenager. You silly Billy. They're just constantly making reference to the handler ending up with one of these girls, to the point where even the villain of the series is like, hey, you better make your move on one of those children, otherwise you might miss your chance. I don't know how the series ends, so if anyone knows whether or not he actually ends up with one of the kids, let me know in the comments section below. The girls are also living with him, by the way. I'm very shocked that the parents would be okay with this, but whatever. And they even go as far as to have an episode where the villain, who's I guess trying to matchmake him with one of the children, he hypnotizes Minamoto into seeing the girls as adults. Uh-oh, someone's going to hell. The girls find out that this is the case. They decide to use this to their advantage to seduce their adult handler. The writers must have thought this was very funny, because they did it again for another episode. They bring back the hypnotism. Alright, as much as I could trash Psychic Squad, I'll just say this much. I did not find the comedy very funny, but there is redeemable factors about it. I think the idea is actually pretty good. I like this idea of a whole entire organization of psychics fighting crime. I like the idea that the most powerful amongst these psychics just so happen to be 3 children. That's interesting. And they do have one running gag that I actually like, and that is the secretaries that work for Babel. So they have this running gag where the secretaries, their psychic thing is that they can read people and know what they're thinking. They're checking people into the building. They naturally have to read their mind to make sure that they're not an enemy. But what ends up happening occasionally is that they will read their mind and then reveal a bunch of embarrassing secrets about them. And it's always like random information and silly information.
何か感じた？一瞬だったからはっきりとは。チルドレン、むっちり、榊、アダルト、ケンさん。何のことかしら?
I did find it to be genuinely kind of funny. It's probably the only running gag in Psychic Squad that I enjoyed. And there is one episode where it features the girls going to school for the first time, and I actually enjoyed that episode. It wasn't that funny, but it did have a plot and some character building and some interesting background characters. So, there you go. And the theme song for this anime is undoubtedly fire. Second DVD on the list, another season 1 for Tower of Druaga, which, as you may or may not know, is based on the video game. I've never played the video game before, I was not sure what to expect, and when I watched the first episode, I was expecting the rest of the series to be something very different. So let me start off this review by first saying that the first episode of this series is completely different from the rest of the series. It does not follow the rule of establishing what the series is going to be. Instead, it focuses on being a parody. Yes, the first episode is a parody episode, making fun of other shonen and fantasy. That's weird if the rest of the show is not going to be that. But I will say this much, it was a very funny first episode, and if you are going to watch any part of Tower of Druaga, I would recommend episode 1 because, my god, they had some banger jokes in there. You know, granted, you just get done watching Psychic Squad and then any joke seems hilarious, but genuinely, the parody episode of Tower of Druaga, by far one of the best episodes in the entire first season.
You're the innkeeper.
On your feet, kid. The only person who's gonna kill you is me.
Out of my way! No, not the innkeeper! He's dead.
afterwards, we get some drop-off. So the basic premise of this series is that obviously they are climbing this tower in order to recover this blue crystal rod, which is supposed to grant wishes. And along the way, figure out the secrets of the tower and why these demons keep on coming from it, and etc, etc. So the main character, Jill, was kicked out of his previous party with his brother, and now he's paired up with a new party of people that he's just now met, and they go climb the tower and fight monsters and stuff. And that's about all there is to it. It's a pretty simple overall plot. The one thing I can say that would perfectly describe Tower of Druaga is tone deaf. Completely tone deaf. In case you couldn't tell by the fact that the first episode is a parody episode instead of establishing what the tone for the rest of the series is going to be. The second episode is actually quite dry and slow-paced. It's a really weird transition. And then when we go back to comedy being the main focus of episodes, it's not funny. Incredible. You'd think because the first episode was such a funny parody episode that later on maybe they would have other good comedy episodes, or that maybe we would get more dream sequences or something like that. One of the worst episodes by far is actually a comedy episode. And in this episode, they're wandering around the tower and they keep on stepping on these magic traps. Now, what do the traps do? Well, nothing that would actually prevent you from going into the tower. It doesn't kill you or anything. Rather, instead, all it does is change your appearance. The only reason why it does this is to make a goofy haha episode where they keep on, oh, look, they changed into furries. Oh, they changed into pixel sprites. Now they changed gender.
Do you think I'm some kind of lech that can't control the urge to touch myself just because I have the hot bod of a gorgeous babe now?
Yes, that's exactly what I think!
I've got huge boobs.
This is also one of the only episodes on this DVD that includes commentary. Yeah, that's right. As if the episode wasn't bad enough, now you can have Monica Rial talking over it. But I can somewhat forgive this episode for being bad, because at least it's not necessary to watch it. You can skip it, as opposed to another episode, which also is totally tone-deaf comedy episode, but is integral to the plot. And this episode kinda ruined all of the characters for me, honestly. It features the love interests using and abusing the main character Jill in order to get something that she wants from this maze. She pulls this whole sob story out of her ass that she needs this item, otherwise she's going to die from some incurable disease. And everyone else in the party kind of knows that she's lying, but Jill believes her because that's just the kind of person he is. He has a lot of faith in his party members. For some reason, none of the other party members really, call her out on this shitty behavior. They all just kind of let Jill go into the maze, and when he's in there, he loses control of his body, because it turns out that whoever enters this maze has to be controlled by somebody else outside of the maze, like an arcade game, which is obviously supposed to be another head nod to the original Tower of Druaga, but it's not funny and it does not fit the setting at all. They even have a snack bar where a guy is selling Ramune and shit. This is a tower where demons are coming out of? That's the thing. The problem with this episode is that it's not supposed to be a parody episode. It's supposed to be taken seriously, and yet they have these very parody-esque things in it. You have to watch this for the plot, and yet it's stupid. They even do a fake-out Jill death scene. He almost dies in this episode because they run out of coins to resurrect him.
He's dead.
Does that sound stupid when I say it out loud? That's because it is. And obviously, I'm not gonna root for this love interest, if you can call her that, and then sandwich this between all this other serious stuff happening. It really feels like there's just a bunch of very different ideas, and they just all got thrown into a pot and then mixed up. The first episode is a parody. The opening theme is stylized as though they're high schoolers doing doing some sort of isekai thing. And the majority of the series tries to have this serious tone to it, kind of be more of a classic shonen-esque thing, but they don't really have a lot of good character moments. To be brutally honest, I don't feel like the characters have really grown much closer by the time I get to the end of season 1. I still feel like they're all kinda strangers to each other. It's not as though they're not getting better at fighting together in the series, but you don't really see it. And I mean that literally. Sometimes they just straight up cut away from a fight scene and then you just see them afterwards and they're like, yeah, we won.
Jill is over there, passed out from exhaustion. Man, I'm a little impressed. I can't believe they managed to walk away from that many Kusaraks.
Wow, cool fight. Wish I could have seen it. But there are things that I can compliment about this show. Like I said, the first episode is genuinely hilarious. I think it's best watched on its own. Second of all, I will give the writing props for having the courage to kill off one of the main characters. I won't say who, but you know, it takes dedication to decide to just do something like that, so yeah, it was interesting, I'll give it that much. And then the final episode. There is an interesting plot twist by the time we get to the end. I just wish that the rest of the series was properly building up to it, because the experience that you get from Tower of Druaga is very special. So if you're interested in checking out Tower of Druaga, go ahead, just know what you're getting into. Just know that it's going to be a lot of tone-deaf nonsense, and that you probably will hate the characters by the time you get to that arcade episode. But I did enjoy it more than Psychic Squad, so good job.
Congratulations.
Congratulations!
Congratulations!
Now I do have one more anime to review for you guys from the thrift store, and this one is actually an anime movie. And it was also the cheapest of the 3 that I bought. It is Steam Boy. You can imagine me being in the thrift store, looking at this and seeing in big bold letters like from the director of Akira, and it's in a thrift store, and I think to myself, okay, so this is probably like maybe a B tier movie and can only possibly get attention by trying to mention Akira somewhere on the cover. DVD cover in general, it's not exactly top tier, especially when you compare it to the cover of Akira. This is kind of bland, and I mean, there's an explosion, I see the explosion, but that explosion does not equal good cover. You need a little bit more than that, and the color palette especially is not doing it for me, but that is something a lot of steampunk content suffers from, is a very brown color palette, and so I was expecting something pretty low tier. What I got was an animated masterpiece. Legitimately, it is one of the most beautiful films I've ever seen in my entire life, and I would recommend it just for the visuals alone. In fact, out of these 3 DVDs, I would say I recommend it the most. They have a really beautiful depiction of England, and you know, a lot of time when you think about anime visual gags, it really boils down to chibi face and boob. But Steam Boy actually does have nice visual gags that feel a lot more authentic. Ray outside the window making his sister laugh by pretending his hat is gonna eat him, trying to start up his wheelie bike but it doesn't work at first and instead it just spins him around and around. Like, those are funny, cute visual gags, and I'm so glad that they exist in the movie, even if they are sparse in comparison to everything else in the movie. They do a lot of really interesting, complicated shots. Obviously, there's incorporated 3D as well, but they do a really good job at making the 3D not jarring. And if you like watching things get destroyed into itty bitty little pieces, this is your movie right here. Because oh my god, they destroy a lot of things and they animate all the itty bitty little bits. But you're probably not that interested in hearing about how great the animation is. How is the story? Well, it's a story. Okay, so the story's a little bit bland. Basically, Ray's father and grandfather invented the steam ball that has infinite energy, and what do you do whenever something gets invented that has infinite energy? You put in a plot line where people are trying to steal it to make weapons. Oh my god, infinite energy source, time to make bombs. So Ray gets the steam ball and he has to protect it from all these different people who want to use it for their own benefit. They all have their own philosophies, and they will shove their own philosophies down your throat for minutes at a time in this movie. And there's also this ongoing rivalry between the grandfather and the father, who both have very different philosophies of their own, and unfortunately Ray gets kind of caught in between them. The grandfather's philosophy is science can go too far, betterment of the world, and never use it for anything that could even possibly be used as a weapon.
バカ者！え？敵とは誰のことじゃ？ドイツ人か、フランス人か、イギリス人か。
それは戦争になってみないとわからないけど。
You know, very pacifist philosophy, despite the fact that he's also trying to shoot his son. And then the father's philosophy is science is super fucking cool. And you know what else is super fucking cool? Giant fortresses. Let's make a giant sky fortress just because it's cool. Which, you know, is not exactly a very evil philosophy, but the way he goes about it is problematic. You know, kind of destroys a bunch of buildings and probably kills a bunch of people in his process of making his giant fortress. Neither the father nor the grandfather are necessarily right in this movie, and I don't even know if this movie is trying to take a stance either way, because it doesn't feel like it really proves anything by the time you get to the end. It doesn't feel like it really makes a statement in the way that it wanted to make a statement. And unfortunately, that also makes it feel like it just wasted your time by playing around with all these different philosophies of all these different people who want the steam ball. It's trying so hard to bring up all these questions. It's trying so hard to say something, but it doesn't say anything. They also try to throw in a romance between Ray and this girl named Scarlett, who is a rich daughter who is funding the scientific research for this STEAM technology. I actually don't mind this character, but the issue is they didn't bother to really flesh her out enough in the story. We spend way too much time on philosophy, not enough time on real character building and real character arcs. Like, you get introduced to Scarlett by her abusing her dog, and immediately that's how you get people to hate a character. And then it feels like she has character development off screen. Like, why does she grow so attached to Ray? You don't really establish this. But she's not terrible, I'll say that much. I don't find her to be annoying. She could have even been a highlight of the movie if she was just given more time to be developed. But really, as much as I love the animation, there's a lot of time spent on just doing cool things with the animation. As much as I like those scenes, you know, we don't really have much character building happening here. We don't really have much of a statement on any of these random philosophies that he's bringing up that have to do with science. So story-wise, I think this movie is a bit of a disappointment. Animation-wise, I think it's an absolute masterpiece. So those are the 3 different anime that I watched that I got from the thrift store. How would I rate these? I would say Steam Boy, number 1, best one of them all. Tower of Jiraga, number 2. And Psychic Squad, coming at 3rd place. All of these were delightfully mediocre in their own special kind of ways. If you would like me to do more of these anime thrift store reviews, let me know in the comment section before and I'll pick up 3 more DVDs to review next time. But if you would like to do something completely unrelated to this video, head over to burningstarcomics.net and check out some indie comics. Did you know that I'm kickstarting a dark fantasy series? That's right, and book 2 is gonna get it crowdfunded March 25th, so you're gonna want to stick around for that. In the meantime, I'm gonna try to regain some of the time that I lost watching all of this anime. But thank you guys for watching all the way to the end. Remember to like the video, let me know if you want to see more videos like these or other videos that you'd prefer to see in the future, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye!
Program restart. Shutting down all systems.